Hey, Freedom Builders, and welcome once again to a live coaching session. I'm your host, Rolando Galeana, and today I'm joined by Lenny Smith, and you may know him as the current Million Dollar Case Study host, and he's just full of knowledge and wisdom when it comes to selling on Amazon. So I'm excited to have him here today. With that, tell us a little bit about what you got going on, Lenny, this season.
Yeah, it's been pretty busy with the Million Dollar Case Study. We're working on the next episode, which is coming out this following Monday, and that's all about launching your product. And in that kind of sharing all the latest sort of strategies that are working at the moment. You may be familiar with a lot of these, as Greg would have covered them in the Freedom Builder Bootcamp. But actually, on that note, because it's top of mind, one of the strategies that I did talk about in the Million Dollar Case Study video, which we're now going to probably cut out before Monday, is the early reviewer program, which many of you might be familiar with. You would pay $60 and then Amazon would go about trying to incentivize people with $1 to $3 gift cards to try and get you one of your first reviews if you've got under 5. I actually just got an email yesterday afternoon saying that Amazon is stopping enrollment as of yesterday, and anyone that is currently enrolled, it will basically stop working, I think, on April 25th. So unfortunately, that method of getting additional reviews is being phased out. Apparently, in their email, they're saying that they've been testing all these other strategies that are better for getting reviews. So who knows, there might be some new features coming down the pipeline to help us with reviews. But I don't know, that's one little bit of Amazon news for the day. But I know we've got lots of questions, so I'll hand it back to you, Rolando.
Yeah, awesome. So if you're familiar with the format, or if not, I'm going to talk about it right now. A week out, we will post this live event, and you can start to drop your questions that you may have, those burning questions, and we start with that list, and then move on to the live questions. So we make every effort within the hour to answer all the questions and get through them all. So with that, I think we have our very first question come up here. And that goes to, now remember, because I'm seeing different threads being created, make sure to drop your question in the one in the comments or where I said don't forget to start dropping your questions. Put your questions in there. That way we can keep a clean format and not have to like jump around from thread to thread. And it looks like Lloyd has the first question. He's asking, my auto campaign has recently been showing my listing on products completely unrelated to mine, from squirrel feeders to USB chargers. I keep adding the ASINs to negative product targeting, but more and more clicks are going to other weird searches. At first, I thought it was downstream trying to learn, but I turned off the ROI optimizer and am still getting these bad clicks. Any idea how to stop this? Lloyd brings up a good point. He mentions downstream. So I want to touch on that real quick. If you're not familiar, if you haven't heard the latest news, Jungle Scout has acquired Downstream Impact. This has been something that you all have been asking about, how Jungle Scout is going to tackle the PPC beast. And rather than build something from the ground up, we just acquired a company that already does really well in the space. And ultimately, at some point, you will definitely reap the benefits of this. We're just gradually working through that. I'll drop a blog post that in the comments so that you can see what this is all about and what the big buzz was last week. So Lloyd looks like he's already using Downstream Impact. That's awesome. And one of his challenges is that he's getting ASINs, unknown ASINs, according to to the campaigns he's running. Yes, definitely. One thing you can do is you could do a negative exact and put that ASIN as a negative exact at the campaign level, not at the ad group level. So that's one option. Alternatively, you're getting these hits because it typically it could either be based on your auto campaign or your broad match campaigns. They're just they're constantly working to find new opportunities, new ways. If it's something that's actually working for you, in terms of for some reason it converts, then definitely you want to keep that on the short list and maybe add it to an exact match campaign and start targeting that ASIN. Otherwise, you want to make sure that it's at the campaign level that you're negative exacting this keyword or this phrase. Or, I mean, I should say in this case the ASIN.
Yeah, probably the only other thing that I could suggest on top of that is if you're starting to show up on lots of really weird ASINs or weird terms, it might be worth kind of revisiting your listing and seeing what keywords and things are spread throughout, because if you think about it, you know, the automatic campaign, Amazon's trying to find what it thinks is relevant for your product, and it would be doing that based off of all the keywords that are in your listing, title, bullet points, description, in your backend. So maybe revisit those and just do an update or double check that those are all relevant, because maybe there's something in there that's triggering the auto campaigns to be going in a weird direction. That's the only other thing I can think of.
All right. Next question. Jeremy asks, I just placed my first order and I'm confused about shipping. The supplier agreed to ship it DDP via sea. They said that it will be shipped in boxes, not a pallet. Can Amazon receive boxes, or do they only receive pallets? Is the first question. What labels need to go on those boxes? Second question. So I guess we'll tackle one at a time. So Amazon can receive boxes. However, one of the challenges that you may be using a freight forwarder. In this case, they would palletize once it arrives at the shipping port. So in this case, so boxes are acceptable. Ideally, pallets are going to be the way that it's going to be transferred much more readily and easily via, just ship. Because typically they'll ship it in a shipping container. Shipping container is stuffed with lots of boxes. That needs to be ultimately organized, and so it will have to be palletized, I guess, is the answer to that, because to be able to transport boxes, unless you're doing an entire shipping container, then you can have the container shipped directly to Amazon. So it's one of two ways. It just depends ultimately if you're having the shipping container direct shipped to one of Amazon's fulfillment warehouses, or if you're going to have a freight forwarder palletize it once it arrives stateside. And then I'll let you answer. I'll let you take on some the next one, Lenny. He asks, what labels need to go on those boxes?
I mean, if you're shipping it DDP via sea in boxes, I believe it should just be the box shipping labels, the regular shipping labels that you would normally generate in Seller Central when you create a shipment. As there's no pallets or anything, I don't think there's anything additional. Is that right, Rolando? I think it should just be the regular shipping labels that you get. You nominate how many boxes there's going to be, and then Amazon will spit out a label for each one of those, and those go on each box. So I think that's right as far as I can tell.
Yeah, and as you're creating your shipping plan, ultimately the labels will be generated at that point in time. So, for example, the first step it's going to create an FNSKU, and so then you probably have already put that on the product, directly on the product before you ship that. So that's one of the first label that you would apply, and then Amazon provides you a second label, which is supposed to go on each container or each carton, each box, I should say, each carton, each box. And then if it's being palletized, then there is a label that goes on the pallet as well. So there are 3 labels in total that need to be applied. So I guess what would need to be figured out in your case is if your freight forwarder is going to, in fact, palletize those for you. Gotcha. And let's see, can the supplier ship to Amazon directly, or should I have them ship to a 3PL? As I've seen others do that, and I'm not 100% certain as to why. So yes, you can ship to Amazon directly. As I mentioned, typically that's a full container load. Otherwise, you would need to go through like an intermediary. And what a 3PL is, a third-party logistics company that can essentially palletize for you. Like I said, your freight forwarder would generally do this for you. If that's not the course of action that you're taking here, then you would ultimately use a 3PL service to palletize that for you. And then
I was just going to add on, because I guess I think you're asking as well sort of why others might do that or not. Other reasons as well, and this is something that we've been looking into also, is with the restrictions on inventory for, well, new and existing listings, maybe only being able to send in 200 units for a new listing or some other level of restriction. If that's the case, but you want to order a large amount because you get a better price on 1,000 units or 2,000 units, that would be one reason to ship to a 3PL, is to order a large amount, send it over to the US, and then just send in how much Amazon allows you to at a time. That would be one reason to go to a 3PL rather than direct to Amazon. The other reason as well would be it may just be more cost efficient to use a 3PL to store your inventory rather than in Amazon. This really comes down to how quickly you're selling your stock. And you would basically need to calculate Amazon's monthly storage fees versus that of storing it at a 3PL and the additional sort of trip into Amazon. So some people use a 3PL for that reason. The other reason as well is if you're selling multi-channel. So maybe you're selling on Shopify or Walmart or eBay, Etsy, one of these other places, then a 3PL would be a good option there to send all of your inventory and then send it to different platforms from there. So those are some of the reasons to do one or the other.
Awesome. And I think that we've tackled all the questions here. Angela asks, if a customer clips a coupon, are they able to redeem it after the end of the campaign? And go ahead, Lenny.
Yeah, because I've been looking at this recently, and I think the answer is yes. Or at least what I do know is that you set a budget of how much you can spend with the coupons, and Amazon is going to deactivate that after it's utilized 80% of that budget. The reason being is that they're leaving the 20% of the budget to allow for people that have clipped your coupon but perhaps haven't checked out yet. So they allow that buffer so that they can still honor people that have clipped a coupon. Because what they don't want is if it spends up to kind of 100% of your budget, then you might have a whole bunch of people that clip your coupon, but they haven't checked out and hasn't officially redeemed it, and it ends up going over your total budget amount. So that's why they cap it, or that's why they shut it off after 80%, and then they have that 20% buffer for anyone that hasn't checked out. So that is in place specifically for people that haven't checked out. As to whether the cutoff, I don't know where the cutoff is. Maybe it is the end date of the campaign, or maybe Amazon allows you to still check out. That part I'm not quite sure of. I don't know if you've got any more on that, Rolando.
No, I think that was a solid answer. And I think, in fact, the next one is a good question for you as well, because I know you covered this in this season of the $1 Million Case Study. Angela asks, what percentage of the sale price do you recommend to spend on the purchase price of a product before freight, duties, etc.? For example, if your Amazon sale price is $50, what is the maximum amount you would like to pay a supplier for the actual product?
Yeah, I guess and it's a very crude rule. It's just a starting point, but this is where we talk about the rule of thirds, where if you're selling for $50, you would want to spend up to about a third to buy the product, or buy the product and get it shipped into Amazon, what we call the total landed cost. Then approximately you would spend about a third of that in FBA fees. That's typically how much it works out to be. And then that gives you approximately a third left for profit. That's a great way to think about it just when you're you're doing product research and you're just getting some ballpark figures. I might be looking at 5 to 10 different product options, and I'm just going to Alibaba, for instance, and maybe talking to some suppliers to get some ballpark estimates. And if the product price is around about that third mark, then I'd consider it a possibility, pending a deeper profit analysis. But if it's way above that third, if it's maybe closer to 50% of your sales price, then I'd probably just rule out that kind of product and move on. So the rule of thirds is a great starting point, but I do want to caveat by saying you want to do more specific or deeper sort of profit analysis. But ultimately, what you want to come out with on the other end is a profit margin of like really healthy would be at least 30%. I'd maybe go as low as 25%, but you really want a healthy profit margin. So I'd recommend at least 30% there.
Awesome. Now we go to Samir. He has the next question asking, hi, Greg. If I have access to multiple marketplaces, am I going to be charged $39.99 for each one? And how can I remove some marketplaces? Well, if you have a North American unified account, that opens the opportunity to be able to sell in the US, Canada, and Mexico. So you're not charged additionally for those marketplaces. The only time that you do get charged for additional marketplaces is if you do go and create Seller Central accounts outside of those unified accounts. Europe is another unified portal that Amazon has created, and so Europe has different marketplaces, and so that once again, it's not on a marketplace based on the country. It's based on the type of unified account. I guess I don't know. I guess that's the best way that you're accessing your plans through. All right, and it looks like Brett has the next question. I'm trying to work out the shipping costs when shipping by sea. In your spreadsheet, it gives the rough price of 0.6 per kilogram. Is that price just the cost of the ship, or does that include the freight forwarder that would also be needed? That would include the freight forwarder, and it's just a ballpark. Remember, these numbers are just like rudimentary. They're not exact, they're not precise, but it's just a ballpark. You always kind of want to err on the side that it's probably going to be slightly more. So I always just like to, just like kind of round numbers up instead of rounding numbers down. I don't know if you have any tricks of the trade there for that, Lenny, but that's usually my mentality. Is like I always round up. I always try to I
always be conservative. I always kind of assume I try to assume the worst when it comes to the price. Like if it seems like it's going to be $1, I'm like, let's just call it $1.50 or $2. And if it's still profitable after that, then it's great. And yeah, just in general, you will find that in this business, lots of little fees do just pop up from time to time. So always being more conservative is better when you're doing these calculations. And the other reason why this is a ballpark figure is because seasonally the prices do fluctuate and that kind of thing. So that's again why it's kind of a ballpark figure, but definitely use Freightos to get an estimate, because that's pretty quick and easy to put a quote out there or to request quotes. Yeah, it's probably what I got.
Awesome. Brett asks, let's see here. Actually, cool. I think he has the next question here, which is, I'll let you read this one.
Yeah.
I don't want to hog up all the airtime here.
In general, do prices go down after Christmas in order to help increase sales? I've noticed that some of the products I've been looking at have all gone down in price after Christmas. Is this a normal occurrence each year, or does this have more to do with the specific products I'm looking at? I've also seen many more sellers getting into these products in the last 4 months. Does this usually drive the price down? Yeah, I think there's a number of things that could drive the price down. Really, all the things that you've mentioned here do happen. I don't know if across the board all prices would go down after Christmas. I can certainly say from experience that I have seen that for a lot of products that the prices do go down after Christmas or early in the new year, but that's also partly because the prices went up for Q4. A lot of people, because there's so much demand, a lot of people end up charging a little bit more for their product just because there's so much demand for it, and they're capitalizing on that by increasing their prices and then perhaps dropping them back a little bit following that season. But yeah, so from what I've seen, it's a fairly normal occurrence, but again, it might just be the products that I'm looking at as well. And let's see, you also said that you've seen lots of other sellers getting into a product in the last 4 months. That is definitely a contributing factor to, price drops. And that's why we always talk about the fact that you don't want to ever be competing on price. You don't want that to be your competitive advantage, because ultimately that will just lead to sort of price wars and no one takes home any dollars at that point. So yes, that is fairly typical, but that just sort of means drill down even more so on what makes your product stand out. And that's the best way to help defend your price as high as you can keep it.
And I always look at this as a good opportunity to try to utilize like coupons and start generating obviously your PPC, getting a little more aggressive, because at the end of the day, you definitely don't want to be the cheapest priced product. It's just about the perception that you're conveying to the person that's buying. They think that if this is a price cheap, then it must be cheaply made, cheaply just a cheap product overall. So that's why I say don't be the highest price product, but definitely don't be the lowest price product. Find that nice medium, and all it really comes down to is being able to it's obviously your images are very important, your description, everything, how it is that you're conveying your product, all of that is about perception. It's all about marketing, and the best marketer wins, and that's what it comes down to when it comes to sell on Amazon. They've just simplified the sales funnel process for us. We don't have to build these websites with sales funnels and upsells, downsells. Ultimately, we're using their sales funnel, we're using their traffic, and that's why I say the best marketer wins. Of course, having a quality product is critical, but 9 times out of 10, everyone's using the same suppliers. Everyone's using essentially the same platform. So the goal is, how are you going to stand out from the crowd? And it really comes down to constantly improving your images and your sales copy and so on. And A+ content goes a long way. Video ads, all of that is going to contribute in converting a sale.
All right. So moving down the list, I'm just going to quickly acknowledge, I see your comment here, Dan, asking to reply to one of the earlier questions. We're currently just going through, we've kind of got 2 threads at the moment. We've got an earlier one that has some questions pre-submitted, I think, before the stream. And then we've got these new comments here on the stream. So we're going to get to those. We're definitely going to get to your question. So just letting you know I've seen that, and we'll jump back to that one. So the next one we've got here is from Samir. Oh no, is Brett. Follow-up question from Brett. The product tracker is not showing the current price. Is there a delay in what the product tracker shows and when a price changes? It would get refreshed. I don't know the times behind the scenes, but the product database, for instance, it kind of cycles through depending on how well a product sells. If it sells a lot, it might get updated like on a daily basis. If it's a little bit slower, it might be on a weekly basis. So they're currently cycling through, and on the product database, you can hit a little refresh button so that it updates immediately, regardless of how long since the last update. So that is true inside of the product database. I don't know about the product tracker, but I've always found that it tends to update fairly quickly. But if you're still having any issues with it not showing the right price, then maybe just reach out to our support and we can maybe take a look at that specific ASIN for you in case there's some other issue there. Moving forward. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's a little. Sorry for the confusion. Facebook rolled out this new event slash live streaming, so it's creating multiple places where people can drop their questions. I just discovered the one that you're talking about, Lenny. I was like, oh, there is another thread. So yeah, so this is gonna bear with us these next couple of lives because we're gonna have to figure this whole this new events thing. So yeah, we'll get to all your questions.
All right. So the next one here is from Samir. I haven't chosen to have a professional account, but I am on a professional account for multiple marketplaces. However, I don't have any products yet. I requested to switch to an individual account, and this will happen next month. How can I avoid paying this month? Okay, so it sounds like you're already on a professional account. You've already paid that. And then you're switching to an individual, but that won't take place until next month. To be honest, I mean, you could reach out and maybe ask for a refund for the current month, and that might require you just to re-sign up. Yeah, I don't know. I do know that people start off with an individual account to save some dollars for their first month or two while they're getting their product ready. Then they switch to a professional account. If you've already paid for the 1 month, you might be able to get a refund from that, but I don't know for sure. Personally, I wouldn't worry too much about it in the scheme of things. It's always great to save a few dollars here and there when you can, but long term, the value that you're going to get from this business far outweighs that one extra month that you paid for. So maybe reach out to seller support and see if you can get a refund for this 1 month. All right. Do you want to take the next one from Sonny?
Let's see here. Okay. I'm just trying to find if I'm in the right spot. When does the clock start ticking for Amazon long-term storage fees if you are just starting with 200 units? Thank you. So Amazon, the way they structure their storage fees is there are monthly storage fees, and then there are long-term storage fees. And so the longer that your inventory is at Amazon, and it's just if it's not moving, then they start to increase their rates. And so they'll keep track, and you'll be able to go into Seller Central and see whether it's 0 to 90 days or if it's beyond 3 months and so forth. What I'll do, just to give you a better perspective rather than break it down, I'll drop a link of Amazon's long-term storage fees in the thread, and you'll be able to see more or less what each category starts, what the rate is, and it's also based on the dimensions of the product, if it's so all of that goes into account, and but they will give you an estimate in Seller Central. Let's see if I can quickly kind of give you a little guidance as to where. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just drop the link, and that'll make it that much easier rather than poke around. But yeah, that should answer that.
Yeah, so definitely the link Rolando will drop in will help you calculate how much those will be. I guess in terms of when they start, it's basically 365 days later. So it doesn't really matter whether you start with 200 units, 500 units, whatever the case may be. If those units are still there 365 days later, that's when the long-term storage fees will kick in. But the monthly ones that Rolando mentioned are, ongoing, just regular monthly ones. All right. I guess that kind of ties into the next one. How to launch with only 200 units of inventory. Anything different than what's in the course? Yeah, that was always, I guess, a bit of a curveball for everyone selling on Amazon throughout 2020, having that restriction. But the best thing that I've seen, in my opinion, is to still order however many units you were going to if you were, trying to get the best cost on 500, 1,000, 2,000 units, but send it over to the US to either a 3PL, or if you've got the space, you can send it to yourself and then just send in 200 units at a time. It's not like a perfect solution, but it's making the best out of the situation that we're given. It does definitely make it tricky to keep your FBA inventory in stock, because you can only send in 200 units at a time. And if it's a product that sells 10, 20, 30 units a day, it can be really tricky to keep that in stock. So some of the other things that you could keep in mind is if you run out of stock with FBA, you can actually switch to a FBM offer, which means that you can fulfill yourself, which means you can continue taking orders via FBM and then send in FBA inventory, and then activate your FBA offer again when that inventory goes back in, so that you're not left out of stock or you don't lose sales. Again, it's not an ideal solution, but it's one to consider. Another one to consider that Rolando's been looking into recently is with some of these 3PLs, these third-party logistics companies, some of them will not only just store your inventory, but they'll offer something called Seller Fulfilled Prime, which essentially means you get your offer gets all the benefits of Prime, but it's you're fulfilling it. So it's fulfilled by you or by the 3PL, but it kind of gets the Prime badge, which is the thing that attracts a lot of people to it. A lot of people are Prime members. A lot of people might even only search through and buy Prime products. So you kind of get that stamp of approval, but you can fulfill yourself. And that's a good alternative as well to the FBA, I suppose, process. But keep in mind, if you are selling out really well, you might only have to deal with this for the first few shipments, because as you prove to Amazon that your product is selling well, they're going to increase your inventory limits. So over time, that's going to get bigger and bigger, to the point where hopefully the 200 restriction isn't as much of an issue in the future. It'll just require more management in the first stages.
Awesome. I wanted to kind of jump back to the previous question from Sunny and just kind of give the pathway of where they can go in and just look at the health of the inventory. So what you would do when you're in Seller Central, essentially just hover over inventory, and then you go to manage. Oh, actually, I apologize. No, it's not manage FBA inventory. I already popped it up. It is inventory planning. You click on inventory planning, and then you have your inventory dashboard there, and it will show what your inventory, FBA inventory age is. It'll share your inventory performance index, which you want to ensure that you keep that up. You want to make sure that if anything isn't moving, find out, maybe even you try to find ways to increase PPC, drop the price a little bit just to move some of that product out. Otherwise, your inventory performance index could be affected. So those are some things that you'll want to monitor. Is make sure that your inventory isn't just remaining there at Amazon, that it's constantly moving, and that you don't have excess inventory as well. And I guess we could jump to the next question.
Yes. All right, so that one is, do you set up and run deals, exclusive discount coupons inside Seller Central and in Jungle Scout at the same time? How do I know customers are not combining all discounts? So generally with a lot of these options, whether you're running the I guess, I don't know what you call it, the older style coupons that you would use or distribute on deals websites, whether you're doing that or you're using Amazon coupons that appear directly in the search results, both of those or there are ways to kind of limit those to only one redemption per customer. So I would always turn that on whenever that's an option, just limit the redemption to one per customer. How do I know customers are not combining all these discounts? I suppose this kind of like ties into actually what I've been working on recently with the launch episode for $1 Million Case Study, but the creating coupons, coupon codes and distributing them on deals websites used to be a very popular method for gaining early sales and subsequently a few reviews from that. However, we have seen that it has become less and less effective. And so I personally wouldn't even recommend that option all that much anymore. You could still maybe do it with a small amount. But I think things like Amazon coupons are a lot more effective, or maybe just running a low price temporarily and combining that with PPC. And then some of the other programs that Amazon has as well, like the Vine program and until yesterday, the early reviewer program. I think these are all better strategies. So to come back to your question, I'd personally just run something like Amazon coupons and not run other coupons as well, so that there isn't any chance of them stacking up or anything like that. Yeah, I just run the one type at a time. I don't know if you have anything else to add there, Rolando.
No, I mean, I'm a big advocate of PPC. I think that's, like I always say, it gets you on page one from day one. So that you'll want to definitely use that as one of the tools in your toolkit. It's not one or the other. It's using them all, using coupons, and as Lenny emphasized, probably doing deep discounted promotions I would shy away from, just because Amazon is cracking down on that, and it is a little bit of a gray area right now. So to play it safe, it's just, honestly, it's a matter of being able to utilize what Amazon already provides for running these types of promotions. So coupons for sure, PPC. I think you want to make sure that your review automation is activated, because of course that's using Amazon's method to be able to generate reviews. Reviews help with conversions, so definitely have that turned on. And yeah, I guess that would probably be the tactic and the approach that I would recommend.
All right, so I think we can jump into the other event now. I can grab the first one if you like, Rolando. So this is, I think, the actual live event. And the first
to find that thread.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll let you do that, and I'll jump into the questions. So the first one here is from Rob. Does the same keyword compete within different campaigns? This would be referring to PPC campaigns. My understanding from what Amazon has said or alluded to is that no, that doesn't happen. I've spoken to a lot of people that all seem to have experienced the same thing, that you're not competing against it yourself if you've got the same keyword in multiple campaigns. So I think you should be fine there. The next question from Rob is, where's Greg? Unfortunately, Greg had some things come up for today and wasn't able to make it. That's why I jumped in to help out Rolando and chat to you all. The next one here from Dan. If you're selling in the grocery area, it says you must be licensed or have approval from the relevant government agency for the products you plan to sell. What does this mean? I unfortunately have no experience in the grocery area. It sounds like you need some kind of FDA approval or some government agency approval, but unfortunately, I can't answer that one. I'm not sure. You might have to do some Googling or, ask around in some forums, maybe in the Seller Central forums, or there's also, we've got another large Facebook group, FBA Competitive Edge. That could be another place to ask, or of course, in the Freedom Builder Bootcamp group in case anyone else has tried that. But unfortunately, I don't have any. I don't have any suggestions. I don't know if you've sold some groceries before on Amazon, Rolando.
Oftentimes, these almost fall in that category of like gated categories.
Yeah.
You'll need to get approval for sure from Amazon. So what I would suggest is reach out directly to Amazon, whether it's by creating a ticket or contacting over the phone. They're going to provide you exactly what's needed for that particular, if it's a particular product, particular SKU, if it's an existing product. And so that's why just working with them directly and getting the certifications that they need. A lot of times they're going to need receipts and pictures of the packaging and so on. And all of that will be provided in the process of trying to get ungated and sell within the grocery category or specifically whatever niche you're looking for. The process is very similar to any gated categories. We stay away from gated categories in Freedom Builder Bootcamp just because there's that much more investment and that much more hurdles to overcome. Whereas we try to go for the low-hanging fruit and teach you how to get that low-hanging fruit. Once you become an expert, then you could venture out and try other niches. But yeah, there's some, we talk about it throughout Freedom Builder Bootcamp. There's some categories that we just like to stay away from. For example, electronics, because let's say you've got a lot of moving parts, things can go wrong. You're going to have a lot more returns, which could impact your seller account. Ultimately, if you have too many returns, Amazon can shut you down. So those are the things that we try to avoid, and especially if you're getting started, just avoid it and follow the tried and true method that we teach.
All right. So the next question here
I think I finally found the feed. I was like, there's all these questions that we hadn't even known about. I hadn't even known about.
Sweet. All right. Well, I got it up in front of me. So then the next question is from Dawn. Do you give your supplier the shipping labels before or after the inspection? Honestly, I don't think it really matters. You definitely want the inspection before it gets shipped out. That's sort of the point of it. You would make sure that you communicate with your supplier earlier on that you are booking an inspection because you want them to obviously know that that's happening, and then they will likely coordinate with the inspection company in terms of the date and time that the inspector will come out. So yeah, you definitely want to be in communication with your supplier that you're booking an inspection so that they can coordinate. But yeah, it doesn't really matter the timing about when you give them the labels, just as long as they know that there's an inspection happening. And yeah, that stage of shipping the products out will obviously come after the inspection.
All right, looks like Rob has the next question. How do you use Downstream? So as we mentioned earlier, Downstream Impact was just purchased by Jungle Scout. So there's a lot that we have to work through and figure out as to how it's going to work and function. However, what I can say is that you can use Downstream as a separate software tool, which would require that you would enroll with them directly or through that site as we work through this merger of sorts. And then what I'll do is I'm going to drop a link. They are offering demos. You can definitely schedule a demo, which I would encourage to do. And yeah, and I'll just drop this link that kind of shares that information, how you can get started with them. Right now, look at it as a separate entity, just because it's not even been a week. And then over time, we'll get more information. As we get that information, we'll be sharing it, of course, with you. You're the first to always find out as members. So definitely, yeah, we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, I guess the very broad strokes, like Rolando said, it's only been a week since we closed it, and these sort of deals are very stressful, take a long time, lots of, I don't know, red tape and all that kind of stuff. So it's only just happened, but yeah, broad strokes, long term, we are looking at how to integrate that into the Jungle Scout suite of tools. We understand that, it would obviously be easiest for everyone having access to all that in one platform. But those are details that are going to take us some time to figure out. In the meantime, it is a standalone app. You, like Rolando said, you can get demos and you can get some more information at the website if you look up Downstream Impact. Currently, as it is, it's probably most suited to people that are running larger campaigns with larger budgets, perhaps. But long term, this will mean like we're also going to be able to integrate PPC in for smaller sellers to larger sellers and across the whole spectrum. We just don't have the details on what that's going to look like yet. But just know that we're working towards that sort of eventuality.
And just to add, I know, Rob, you've been asking for PPC, so it's a you ask, so therefore you shall receive. Know that like Greg and the entire Jungle Scout team, we are fierce about creating the best platform and tools and teaching and coaching for Amazon sellers. Hence why this purchase happened. It just goes to show how our emphasis is definitely delivering and for our customers and providing the best solutions. Buying out a company is probably the fastest way you could go about doing that versus having to build this from the ground up with glitches and all this stuff. We already have a software that essentially can accomplish our goals. Ultimately, as you can see, you've partnered with the right team.
All right. So next up, Angela. Well, actually, sorry, there's a couple of comments from Lloyd, but I think those are just referring to Downstream, perhaps. Then, not actual questions. Angela says, once I finalize the shipping plan, how long does it take for UPS to go and collect goods from a 3PL? Actually, that I'm not sure about, Rolando. Yeah, once you book in Amazon's discounted partners, yeah, I'd imagine it probably varies depending on the time of year and so on, but I don't know if you've got a ballpark.
It can take a bit of time, especially in the era that we're in. These things used to move a little faster. You're talking about like maybe a couple of weeks, but now, I would plan for a good solid 28 days or so, that time frame, just because the queues, like it's insane. What used to take, like I said, a week or two, it's just always double it now. And so my experience has been that with everything, I just got to be a little more patient. And in your case, I would say give it a month or so, and that should be around the time frame. So you want to obviously factor that in, give it a little bit of a buffer. If you're running out of supply, whatever the case may be, always give it that extra 2 weeks, I would say.
Gotcha. All right, so next up here from Dan, if you're wholesaling in the food category, do you need a FN SKU or a GTIN for selling? If not, how will Amazon know that the credit goes towards the actual seller that's selling that product? Let's see. So if you're wholesaling, I don't know whether wholesaling in the food category would be any different to just wholesaling in general. I wouldn't imagine, Rolando.
Correct. It's all the same.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like there may be a gated category, or maybe like selling grocery, or that, let's say, I don't know, Skittles. I don't know, a brand that already exists. But yes, you would generate an FN SKU specifically for your products, so that it's identifiable that it is, and you would basically cover the barcode of the product that you're selling. So it's very similar to wholesaling, just regular toys and books or whatever the case may be, but you would apply it on the packaging of whatever it is you're selling. So yes.
Yeah. So I guess the way to think of it is every offer on a listing will generate its own FN SKU, and that's how they're all on the same listing or the same ASIN. However, there's different FN SKUs which identifies the different sellers.
Cool. Trying to figure out where we left off. Questions?
Let's see. Well, I can grab the next one here from Angela. Do suppliers usually have stock of products they manufacture? That is, if I ask for a sample, will they have one on hand? I mean, it does vary from supplier to supplier, but in most of my experiences, they usually have some on hand. I don't know how they work it, but I'm sure that they do just have them on hand for the purposes of sending out samples and that kind of thing. But yeah, in my experience, whenever I've requested a sample, that has always been able to be sent out immediately. But of course, larger orders will take some time. So I think they would usually have some stock on hand.
Of course, if you're not doing any alterations, they typically do have some stock. They tend not to, like not have large quantities. They don't like to store things. So definitely a sample, however, they will have on hand. Just a sample that you should be able to get if you're not doing any alterations to the product whatsoever. So if you don't want your branding on there and you're not trying to do your own packaging, then they should be able to get that out to you rather quickly.
Actually, that leads right into the next question from Angela. When I ask for a sample with a logo on it, some suppliers say it will cost an extra $50 to $100 for a setup fee, but others don't. Is it usual to pay a setup fee? I guess in my experience, it's more usual to pay a setup fee than to not pay for that. Again, like Rolando said, they usually have just generic samples, on hand, but it's obviously more work and so on for them to have to print a custom logo or anything on there. And at that point, they don't know whether this is worth all this extra time. They don't know whether you're going to order 1,000 units from them, or whether they're just spending a lot of time to create one sample that isn't going to get them any business. So that's why some of them will charge that fee. I've personally found that most common. I feel like it'd be great to find some suppliers that didn't ask for that additional fee to customize the product. But I guess it also depends on what the product is and how easy it is to customize. Whether it's, if it's something that requires a whole new mold, then they would definitely charge some sort of fee. But a lot of the times when you get charged for a sample product, they'll usually offer to refund that or credit that towards a larger order. So keep that in mind. I think most suppliers would do that. If you did have to pay that $50 to $100, they would probably refund that or credit that if you go with them for a larger order.
All right. Oh, cool. Let's see here. It's already top of the hour, Lenny. we're at to wrap it up pretty soon, but Let's see how many more questions we can tackle.
All right. So Dan, can you please look at the question above? We got that one. Samir says, I can see that I have a US marketplace, European marketplaces, and UAE one with the same Seller Central account. I can't remove some marketplaces. What can I do? This isn't something I've gone in and played with, but like Rolando was explaining earlier, they're more kind of grouped in regions. And when you're subscribed to that unified account or that region, you get access to all of them inside of that. So I haven't done this, but I imagine that maybe it's not working if you're trying to remove a particular individual marketplace. You maybe somehow need to remove the entire unified account. But yeah, I haven't tried that, so I'm not quite sure how to remove and add them, but you should be able to do that for sure.
And what I would do is just reach out to seller support directly. In this case, create a ticket and they could help you resolve that. It's probably your best course of action, so it's documented. Rather than calling in, just create a ticket, and someone can help you with that. Get clarification. Because everything is, I believe the way it works is more or less on the type of the storefront or the country, wherever it's based out of. So what I would do is just first confirm if you are going to be charged, and then if they say yes, then have them remove it. I think that's the course of action, rather than just getting it removed. Doesn't hurt to have them if they're not being charged. It might be a marketplace that you'll want to go into the future. So it's just on, region by region, really, at this point.
All right, Angela says, if I order a sample, should it come in the product standard box? I want to order a sample, but the supplier is saying they can't send it in the product standard box. Yeah, I would have thought that you should be able to receive it in the standard box. Again, like before, what I perhaps wouldn't expect is for them to send it in a custom box. That is something they typically wouldn't do. Whenever you want customized packaging, I've always had to order a large quantity, 1,000, 3,000 units of these custom printed boxes. So yeah, I wouldn't expect a custom box. I would have thought that you should be able to get a standard box, but it probably varies depending on what the product is. I'm assuming in this case, then they're maybe sending it to you in a poly bag or something instead of the standard box. So I would say that probably some suppliers will, some won't. But I would have thought that if you request it, that they should be able to work with you on that. Yeah, that's all I can suggest, is just to talk it through with them and go from there.
All right, and then it looks like next question goes to Lloyd. Lloyd asks, have you ever seen a temporary price war? I have good funding and think I can kill some of my new competition by pricing much lower and only making 30% ROI. I was thinking then increasing the price to my main competitors after they are forced to leave. Am I a horrible person? Well, it's a situation where price wars are just not good in general.
You just have to be careful.
Yeah. So the perception's already put out there, and that's the expectation set going forward. So customer, because think about it. Always put yourself in the customer's shoes. They knew that the product was selling for $5. So now they expect that they're going to receive this product for $5 forever and ever. And so if they just see it jump all of a sudden to $15, I'm just speaking in hypotheticals, they'll probably shy away and not want to repurchase or purchase this product. And that's why I say price wars are never good. You do see people you talk about temporary, like you see temporary price wars happen because someone's trying to offload inventory and they're trying to get rid of it fast because they might be getting hit with, a long-term storage fee for a certain amount of units, and they just want to get rid of those units. And once that stabilizes, then they bring their price back up or do something, my personal take on this is just deliver in the form of quality. And deliver in the form of, creating the best experience as a whole for the customer, and just I think that goes far. That's where you want to invest in. Like, how can you make your we talked about this earlier. How can you make your product stand out? How can you make a customer satisfaction? How can you just deliver on all on all those bases, and be more aggressive with PPC. I think that will be that's where you want to invest in, is in PPC, rather than reduce your price. And you'll see that goes a long way, a lot further, and you could still clobber the competition, like you said.
Yeah, I guess my thoughts here is that, yes, you do see temporary price wars. It is, it's a good strategy for when you're launching a new product. For instance, you don't have many reviews, so you temporarily, or for maybe a few weeks or something, drop your price just to encourage some more sales and so on temporarily. So you could do it if it is very temporary. You may want to consider it in your toolbox, but like Rolando, I'm not a huge fan of it. The reason being is that you don't know how the competition is going to react. Like, you're referring to them being forced to leave. How do you know they don't? If you're still making, a 30% ROI, how do you know what price they're getting at? They might be able to source their product cheaper than you, and they might be able to then undercut or drop to your price, and you get forced out of the market. Like, it's kind of dangerous territory to play in. But I think in little spot treatments, if maybe you just want to do it for a few days or something to spike your sales, see whether that helps you increase your keyword rankings a little bit. I think it could be used as like a little spot treatment, but just be very careful when playing with that, because you don't want to bring the market price down.
Because it will drive.
And you're not a horrible person.
As a whole, it'll drive that whole niche down, right? Like it'll be a race to the bottom for everybody. Everybody's like, man, like what's going on here? So then they start lowering their price to be competitive. Then the next person's does. So it's not just your the main competitor that you're trying to take down. It just becomes your whole niche, and then that stinks because like I said, it's now that's the perception of what it should be priced at to a customer, and so going forward, that's what they're going to expect.
Because also if you think about it, the last thing I was just going to mention is that if you think about it, before they're not just going to leave the market at their current price. Before they do that, they're probably going to match your price or come down lower as well. They're going to, try to save some sales before finally leaving. So there is going to be a period of time where, you are going to be competing on price, and then everyone else that's watching might do the same. So it can just start this domino effect. But enough said. We'll move forward.
Dan asks, is there a 200 unit limit in effect? Yes, there, since the pandemic.
I'm pretty sure it's
Amazon
still in effect.
And it's on a SKU basis. So it's not, if you have multiple SKUs, it's not going to impact your overall account. It's just on a per SKU basis. So it is still in effect.
Cool.
Angela asks, if I have to create a disposal order because my product is unsellable, am I reimbursed? Unfortunately, no, Angela, you're not reimbursed. And that's why unsellable means typically the customer opened the package and kind of messed with it, and now Amazon can't resell it. So your options would be the removal order to send to your address. You type in the address of where you want to send it to, and then maybe you could sell it somewhere else, like on eBay or wherever the case may be. And then, or the alternative to that is the cheaper route, because you don't have to pay the shipping that they charge, is to have them just dispose of it.
Yeah, I think Greg's talked about this before.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rolando.
And I was going to say, the sad thing is that by disposing it, sometimes the Amazon just resells it on the aftermarket, and where like it's open package type pages, deeply discounted. But yeah.
I think Greg's talked about this on the lives before, but generally speaking, it's very hard to make it cost effective to remove the items and then resell them. By the time you add up all the costs to send it back in, you end up losing money. So it ends up being more cost effective to dispose it. Maybe the only times where maybe it would be cost effective is if maybe it's a very expensive item that costs you quite a bit, and you are able to, weather the costs of removing it and then sending it back in and still make a profit or break even. But otherwise, disposal is probably the best bets. All right, we'll see if we can get through the next couple of questions in the next 4 minutes. It's awesome. It looks like Lloyd's setting up a demo with Downstream. That's awesome. Then next up, difference in negative targeting in ad group versus campaign. Ultimately, it just means that under your campaign, you can have multiple ad groups. So if you add negative targeting on the ad group level, it'll only affect that ad group. All the others will continue to target that keyword. Whereas if you add negative targeting to the campaign, that just removes it from all of the ad groups. So yeah, that's the difference. Hopefully that makes sense.
Looks like Anir asks, do you have to have a few reviews before turning on PPC? I don't wait to have reviews. Now, ideally, what's going to happen if you, especially if you have, 5-star reviews, you have positive reviews, is that it helps with with your conversion rate. So initially, it's going to be an investment upfront. That's what we say PPC in the first days is going to be an upfront investment, but it helps you from going from page 1,000 to to page 1. And so that in itself is valuable because now you're in front of everyone and you're going to have the coupon, as we talked about. You're going to have that little green box that says 20% off. And it's going to be eye-catching. You might not have reviews, but that little green box is going to be something that'll stand out. They're going to click in there and they're going to love your listing and hopefully buy. And so now you just added that person to there's just one more person that hopefully provides a nice organic review because you have your auto reviewer on as well.
Yeah.
Requesting reviews. So it's kind of like it all ties in together. PPC is a good. It's not required. A lot of people will say that you want to have 5 or 10 reviews before turning it on. I am not a fan of that strategy just because it's just going to take that much longer. And ideally at launch, you want to be able to start generating sales to really for Amazon to start playing nice with you and start helping you move up organically as well.
Yeah, I would say that, like you mentioned, Rolando, there are 2 trains of thought. There are people that wait until they've got at least 3, 4, 5 reviews before they turn on PPC. And if you don't have much money to play with, that might be the better option for you because it is more expensive to start it from day 1. So depending on your budget, it might be better for you to do that. But personally, I'm in the same boat as Rolando where when I launch a product, I like to be very bullish, turn on everything at once, try to get sales and reviews as quickly as possible. And that's where, even though I don't have any reviews, so yeah, quite likely PPC is going to be expensive to begin with. Like, not going to sugarcoat it. It is, you are going to spend a bit of money at the start, or a lot like more money than you will once you've got more reviews. But if you do couple that with a lower price or a coupon code, that might just be enough to get people to take a gamble on buying your product that doesn't have any reviews over the competition, which is at a higher price with reviews. But if you're turning on all these things at once, for instance, maybe you enroll in the Vine program, or again, until yesterday, the early reviewer program. If you're turning on all these methods that are helping bring reviews and sales in, then hopefully it won't be too long until you get even 1 or 2 reviews. The moment you get any reviews will start making a difference, particularly if they're positive. So if you're wanting to rank as quickly as possible, then I would turn it on from day 1. But if you don't have much capital and you're kind of conservative, then maybe wait for a few reviews, but I wouldn't wait too long.
And I stress, definitely turn on the little dial for review automation. It's definitely going to be a good follow-up for you for someone that every time someone purchases. So make sure to have that turned on. And that is not a black hat or a gray area. That is legit Amazon. We're just pushing the button for you, and we're automating that process for you to request a review.
All right, let's take 2 more questions, I think, and then we'll wrap it up for today. The next one here is from Gadgets. Can I list one product at different marketplaces at the same time if there is high demand and low competition in both marketplaces? Let's see. You certainly can. I know I haven't sold too many products internationally, but when I have tried it, I believe you can actually, I don't know what they call it. Is it like a unified listing or something? But you can sort of like link it to the US listing so that it pulls across the reviews and so on. So I'm not super experienced on how you set that up because I've only done it once and it was a while ago. So there is a way for you to do that, or you can separately just create new listings on each of those markets. So you definitely can do that. personally, I would say be careful, particularly if this is your first time round. I would recommend you just focus on one listing in one marketplace to begin with. Basically launching, because in different marketplaces, you're essentially launching two or multiple products, and it's a lot of work. And when you're launching a product, you are often break even or losing some money. So you really just need to focus all your money, your efforts, everything on launching one product. Unless you've got a lot of capital and you've done this before, but yeah, I would only recommend doing it in one marketplace at a time. I don't know if you've got any other thoughts to add there, Orlando.
None other than if it is like a North American unified account, you can sell in Canada and Mexico. You'd have to go into your settings and set that up. I believe it's like settings and your services and manage. And there's going to be some radio dials you got to activate and some information you got to provide, and that should get you up and running. But like Lenny says, it's very rare that you're gonna achieve a lot of success, even in Canada or Mexico, just because of shipping costs and so on. So put all your emphasis to launch in whatever country that you feel has the highest volume. I don't know if you have like a seller account in the U.S. or if it's a European Union account, but I guess my main focus would be on the one that has the highest volume of customers and so forth. In that case, like the United States would be for us. And so then, and I would just put all my emphasis and focus on a successful launch there, and then start to venture out from there. Once I've, I'm my return on my investment is great, and I'm making some good returns, then yeah, I mean, that's when you start venturing out. Otherwise, you really got to hone in and perfect the one space that you think that you could be the most successful in.
Cool. Yeah, one other quick note to add there is, other than within a unified account, it looks like there is a way to do it between different unified accounts. I don't know if it works the same for all of them. So in my example, I actually created a listing in Australia, which is a different unified account. And somehow, it was so long ago now, but somehow maybe I had to just search for the product or put in the ASIN, but somehow I created a listing on Amazon Australia, but it was pulling all the reviews in and so on from my US account. So it is possible to do it between different unified accounts as well, but I'm not an expert there.
All right. Let's see. I guess we could take one more question and then we will have to go. But where do we leave off? Okay, there you go.
You got it?
Yeah, it looks like Don. Don is
yeah.
Is it Don?
Yes.
Should budding sellers think about using downstream in the beginning or wait until they have sold a certain number of units? Now, my recommendation, I always think it's, if you're learning how to sell on Amazon, it's always wise to go through and create your own PPC campaigns at first. Just so that you understand like the inner workings and can kind of speak the lingo and learn all the all the different terms that you're going to learn in the process. Because overall, you're still going to be managing it, even if it's automated for you. You're still going to need to identify, your key metrics, your key performance indicators, and so that's why I would advise learn how to do PPC. The beauty, at least that I find with Amazon, and I've used various different platforms. I think Amazon is one of the simplest to learn, rather than like learning Facebook. Facebook ads, that's a that's a beast of a project. But learning Amazon ads, it's actually fairly straightforward. And so that's why I say try to learn it. Run some tests, some experiments, and then of course, by that time, we'll have better integrations, and we'll have more knowledge of how downstream can directly help you in your long-term goals.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to wrap it up for today. As always, thanks for all of your questions. Hopefully, you guys got some value from everything here today. Yeah, all the very best of luck with your Amazon endeavors. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys again. I'll pop in when I can into some of these live streams when I can. But yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Rolando.
Yeah, thanks for joining, Lenny, and keep crushing it, Freedom Builders. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.